I remember one issue of Magnus Robot Fighter in particular. They had like encouraged fans to send in their submittals for their own robot designs. And I'm looking at this really cool artwork and I'm like, a kid drew this? Wow. And I look at the signature and I realize that guy went on to draw for Star Wars comic books. Can't for the life of me remember his name. I'm sorry. So when there's something weird, started shooting this video last week. And I've already uploaded one version that I had edited on a new software that I downloaded for my phone. I spent the next couple of days editing the two videos that are to follow. And I learned a few more features on that phone. So I uploaded them in the order they were shot. And when I went back and looked at the first one about the comic books in the basement, I thought, it's so dry. There's so many things I could have done if I'd known the software could do that. So I thought, I'll recut it. I'll do a special edition. I had actually uploaded the special edition with more graphics and was reviewing it before making it public. And something about the third or fourth or fifth or however many times I'd seen it during editing, where I'm trying to remember the name of the comic book artist. Was it Carmine Infantino? Was it Archie Goodwin? I don't know. Something in the back of my brain goes, Walt Simonson. I can even see how he signed his name. It had like the zigzag letters of the M and the N and then the O's and everything. Yeah, I can picture that. From 40 years ago, I can picture that. If somebody out there has like a PDF scan of every issue ever of Magnus Robot Fighter, let me know, because I'd really like to go through the letter calls until I find that robot design that I recognize. Earlier, I had already been talking in the thread on Rebel Scum with Tolga and Utini. And Utini said, oh yeah, there are some online albums of Magnus Robot Fighter issues. I said I couldn't find any. He said, here's a link. So I had looked them over, and he warned me that they were, kind of spammy. And I thought it was ironic that every time I would click a few pages into Magnus Robot Fighter, it would stop and ask me, was I a robot? I had not had any luck searching through manually. But with the name, armed with a name that popped to mind, floated up to my conscience from 40 years ago, I looked it up. I said, okay, Walt Simonson, Magnus Robot Fighter letter. And I got a hit from Walt Simonson's wiki page. It talks about the fact that when he was a teenager, maybe 18, 19, that was his very first published comic book art. Issue 10 of Magnus Robot Fighter from 1965. Armed with the number, I went back to the files that Utini had shared. Lo and behold, there it was. And it was a little eerie to see it again after 4 decades, because number one, I was amazed at the things I got right. Because it was like chrome looking, and the arm actually flowed into the gun, and it didn't have legs, it was hovering. But I was also picturing it in my mind's eye, completely mirror image from how it actually was in the comic book. And in the comic, it's on the lower right, and I was picturing it on the upper left of the page. So I got some stuff right, I got some stuff wrong, but I mean, my mind is blown to see that again after 4 decades of not having seen that visual. And now it's in this video for you to enjoy. So, yeah, Walt Simonson, he wasn't quite as young as I had assumed at the time, but you can see how much more polished his artwork was than all the other submittals on that page. So yeah, it's really cool that they've got it on his wiki, but I mean, I still remember that epiphany of looking at that comic book, lying on that bed and going, I know that name. He writes for Star Wars. I looked him up. I think he wrote for some pizzazz issues. I had a few of those. He wrote for the regular Marvel line. And, here it was. I'm reading an issue that I thought was a little bit older, but it was at least 5 years before I was born. And here's a guy that I now know him at 10 or 12 or however years old I was when I found these comics, that he'd already become a professional in that field. So big thanks to Utini for sharing that website with me. I mean, it's just, I scratched a brain itch with this one. It's like archaeology within my own lifetime.